Hi, my name is Kelly Clark, and you're with me in my home kitchen in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And today we're going to make some stuffed peppers with a wonderful smart chicken, some cremini mushrooms, some zephyr squash, and it's going to be fabulous. I love using smart chicken because it's raised on family farms, and that means it's wholesome and it's grown humanely, and that is really important to me. You could use two different types of peppers in the recipe, just a traditional red sweet pepper. This is an Italian sweet pepper, and that's kind of fun to use. You want to find one that's blocky, that has a good cavity to it. And so this one is pretty good in that regard. Just want to slice the top off and trim the rib. And you want to be careful not to cut into the pepper itself. We want to try to keep it intact. Okay, now we want to blanch the peppers that we've cut and removed the seeds and the veins from. And just in a pot of boiling water, drop your peppers in, push them down so they submerge, and then give them about 5 minutes. Okay, the peppers have been in about 5 minutes, so let's give a look at them here. I use my little strainer if the tongs aren't doing it for me. And just be careful because some of that water can stay in the pepper and you don't want to burn yourself. But see how nice, and they're not soft, mushy. They're just soft enough to stuff easily. The other ingredients in the recipe are the cremini mushrooms, which I've already dusted off and sliced, along with some chopped onion. And we're going to be sauteing those in a little olive oil and butter here. And blending it later with some Parmesan cheese and ricotta, some nice fresh garlic that's been minced, and some chopped parsley. And the beautiful zephyr squash that are from Eco Farm, from the Carborough Farmers Market. We're going to grate these in the food processor. You could do it by hand as well. The food processor's fun because it's just so quick and easy. Take about 5 squash, just take the ends and the tail off. All right, so we're gonna, this is so fun, it's just easy. Pop them right in. They should be, you should pick ones that are narrow enough so you really don't have to cut them. You just put them in the Cuisinart. Now the secret here is to take the grated squash, and we want to toss it in with a little salt because we want some of that moisture in the squash to leach out. So while we're preparing the rest of the ingredients for the recipe, about 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and just toss it around a bit. And make sure you have it on a plate because it's going to drain, and release some water and just let it sit. It's as easy as that, and we'll come back and squeeze it later. I've put 2 tablespoons of olive oil into the saute pan over medium heat and brought it to temperature, and I want to saute the onions now until they're translucent and a little bit soft. All right, the onions have cooked for a short while, and they're translucent and they're starting to get soft. So I'm going to put the butter in and mush it around, let it melt, and as soon as it's melted, turn the heat up a little, and toss in the cremini mushrooms. Now, keep tossing. We want to coat those mushrooms so that the butter and the oil and the onions, they're all getting good and mixed together. And those mushrooms are going to soak up all of that oil and butter. And I like to keep tossing. The juices have come up, turn off the heat. And if you're not ready to use them right away, just set them aside, spread them out in the pan and set them aside. We're ready to assemble the ingredients for the stuffing, starting with the beautiful chicken that we've poached and then shredded into not, teeny tiny pieces, medium-sized pieces. We're going to add the squash, and so we have to finish off the squash. Remember, it's been draining, and marinating kind of in a little salt, and you're just going to brutalize it here. Really squeeze it to squeeze as much water as you can out, and see the water on the plate? So you can get a good bunch out. Don't get all, hung up on having to get it all dried out. We just squeeze in as much as we can. And that goes on top of the chicken. Or if the mushrooms went on first, there's no real, major order to this. Just want to make sure we get all the ingredients in the bowl. In goes the mushrooms and onions. And what I tried to do when I was thinking about this recipe was, it's the ingredients, the chicken, the squash, the mushrooms, the onions, that's really important. I didn't want to put a lot of binder in it, so there's not going to be a whole lot of ricotta and Parmesan added to it, a little fresh garlic. And then the ricotta and the Parmesan cheese. And the parsley, 2 tablespoons of parsley. And now you just want to work all these ingredients together. I don't know about you, but we're careful with salt in our house, and so I don't really add a lot of salt to my recipes. Right now, this is going to get a half a teaspoon of salt, that may be even a little bit more than some of you might want to use. I just think that it's important for us to watch our salt intake, and so we tend to salt after we've prepared the food, and salt does pop the flavors, but you can let the vegetables and the chicken speak for itself. So don't be afraid to salt later. Good grind of pepper, maybe about 1/4 teaspoon. And another quick mix, and we're ready to stuff our peppers. When you're stuffing the peppers, just hopefully they're cool enough to handle, and a spoon that'll fit, and just make sure that you've taken the stuffing ingredients and you're pushing them down into the pepper. We've stuffed all the peppers, and we're going to garnish the top of the sweet red peppers with some thin slices of tomato. This is a little Cherokee purple tomato, or you could use a yellow, like a lemon boy here, tomato. These are prettier. Okay, and a little piece of tomato on the top. And finish it off with some Parmesan. And what's going to happen when it's cooking is this will make a nice little crust on top of the tomato, and thus on top of the pepper. And I like to put some water in the pan while it's cooking, and I just use some of the poaching water from the chicken, about 2 cups, enough so you have a nice layer of water in the pan. And this helps sort of steam the peppers while they're cooking, keeps them from sticking. And if you have a pepper that is awkward and it's tipping, just take a little bit of tin foil and crumple it up and wedge it underneath there in order to level out the pepper, and it just works just fine that way. The peppers will cook for 45 minutes at 350 degrees, and what we're looking for is a little bit of char on the top of the Italian sweet peppers, and as I mentioned, the crispy top on the sweet red peppers. So here's our peppers, hot out of the oven. They look beautiful, nice crispy brown top on the tomato with a little Parmesan cheese on top. And boy, when you cut into this, you're really gonna enjoy how chickeny it is, because we really let the chicken be predominant ingredient. It's gonna be moist. It's gonna have soaked up a little of that flavor from the mushrooms and the squash. And because it's just not adorned with a lot of stuff, that's going to come through as a really wonderful fresh chicken flavor with all the other wonderful ingredients in it, with our mushrooms and our zephyr squash. And there we go. Wow, I think that looks wonderful. Don't you? Here's our finished stuffed peppers with a smart chicken that's been poached and then shredded just right, with the zephyr squash and the cremini mushrooms, all toasted up in the oven so that the Parmesan toasted really good on top of the tomato, served with a little side salad. Your friends and family are going to want to come back for seconds, so be sure you bring them all to the table. Thanks so much for cooking with me today, me and Smart Chicken. I hope you enjoy.